Welcome everybody. Good morning, or a good evening, or a good night, wherever it is, wherever you are, you have a good that. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with this tier list. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, but I wanted to wait until the Machine Spotlight series was over because I felt like that was pretty fitting since I have thoroughly researched every single one of these machines, and I've had the chance to really get to know and appreciate every single one. And so that's why I wanted to wait till the end of the series. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. And we're going to go in alphabetical order, of course. So the first one we have is the Behemoth. So I'm going to do my best to kind of describe why I'm putting each machine in what category. But I'm not the best describer of things. I've mentioned this before. I would be a terrible sommelier. Those people that taste wine, they're like, it tastes like leather. It tastes like shoes. Like for me, I've always been the person like, it tastes good. Or it tastes bad. There's no in between. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's see what the Behemoth. Where do you think I'm going to be putting that? Let me see. Actually, I don't know where I'm going to be putting it. I think I have to put the Behemoth. I also have to, I might be moving some machines around as we go through the list. The Behemoth is the first one though. So being the first one, I actually think I'm going to be putting it as an A tier machine. And part of the reason for that is I thought the Behemoth was absolutely amazing in Horizon Zero Dawn. However, I think got overshadowed a lot in the Forbidden West, understandably, with all the new exciting machines. But even then, the Behemoth is extremely powerful, as we saw in the Machine Spotlight for it. It can decimate a lot of other machines. Its AoE attack, where it shoots out the rocks basically in all around its diameter or circumference, that is a very powerful attack, and it can spam it quite quickly. It is easily able to take out a Tide Ripper. So for those reasons, I'm going to put it in the A tier. But I don't think it deserves S tier just yet. Bellowback. So this is another one that I really like. I really like the design, and I used to, if I were to have done this before I made the spotlight on it, I honestly probably would have put it around here. But after the spotlight, I gained a newfound appreciation for the Bellowback. I didn't think it deserved a place in the A tier. It is absolutely OP when you override it. Again, thinking back to my spotlight on it, we overrode some Bellowbacks, and they were able to absolutely destroy all the machines around them, including a Tremor Tusk. So this very small machine, large machine, was able to basically single-handedly take on a Tremor Tusk and decidedly win. It wasn't even a contest. So because of that, I think I'll put it in the A tier. I do like the design too. I think it's one of the most unique looking machines in the Horizon franchise. It's very unique. Kind of looks like a gigantic tick, but I think it's basically designed off of a baryonyx. Next up, we have the Bristleback. I keep thinking about the latest one. Even after the spotlight, the Bristleback doesn't really evoke a lot of feelings for me. It doesn't really make me very excited, and for that reason, and this may be kind of controversial because it is a good mount. I'll say that it was a pretty strong mount. I'm gonna rank it as a D. So this is the first kind of D for me. Again, this is all opinion. This is very subjective. It's not objective whatsoever. It's just my opinions. So the reason the Bristleback goes to a D is I think the design, while it's cool to have a boar design, I think it's boring, to be honest. It is kind of cool in its own regard, but I would have much rather seen some kind of other animal or dinosaur in its place rather than the Bristleback. Again, I just don't think it's that exciting. It only has a few attacks. I know it's one of the first machines that they basically introduced in Horizon Forbidden West, but I think it's kind of subpar compared to the other machines on this list. And again, I might be moving some machines around on this list as we go through it. So the next machine we have is the Burrower. This is another one that I'm conflicted about. I think it's going to sit in the middle of the pack for me because I don't love it, but I don't hate it. It is a really cute machine. I will give it that. And I think it has a lot of personality, and it is actually pretty cool to override. Again, looking back at the spotlight for the Burrower, it actually was pretty small. It was pretty strong for such a small machine. But again, it's just one of those machines that doesn't really super excite me, and I think it kind of lost a lot of its potential. They, of course, have different variants of the Burrower. They have all these different elemental canister variants of the Burrower, and I think what they could have done that would have made it a little more exciting is if they had those elemental canister Burrowers have a special elemental attack respectively for each of their different elemental canisters. For instance, the fire canister Burrower would have some kind of flame attack. The plasma canister Burrower would have a plasma attack, and so on and so forth. So because of that, I think I'm actually going to put it in a C. It could have been executed a little better. It is a very cute machine. I think it's really cool, and it's semi-aquatic, which is also really cool. Let's go ahead and go on to the Charger. So the Charger is another iconic machine. I actually really liked it in Horizon Zero Dawn, but I like the Broadhead more, which unfortunately we didn't get with the Forbidden West, which I was really bummed out about. but the charger for me, again, is one of those machines that doesn't really excite me. I don't really have a strong emotional connection to it, except for Joe. Joe will always live on in our hearts and our minds. But besides Joe, chargers themselves as a whole don't really evoke a lot of anything in me. And it is a good mount. It's very versatile. It's small and nimble, and it actually can hold its own pretty well. It's really good at staggering other machines. But I'm actually gonna go ahead and put it along with the Burrower in the C tier. RIP Joe, rest in peace Joe. For those of you who've been along for the stream since the beginning, you know exactly what we're talking about. That moment was so ridiculously funny to me when I rewatched it. Anyway, so let's go ahead and move on to the next machine we have on the list, which is the Clamberjaw. Now, this machine is also very cool and unique. However, it is extremely annoying. It's one of the most annoying machines that I faced in the Forbidden West just because it's so quick and the weak spots are incredibly small. I'm going to put it in C tier. So the reason I'm putting it in the C tier, again, is I actually really like the design. I think it's one of the first primate machines that we actually get. It's very unique among all the machines in the Horizon Forbidden West. I think it's really entertaining. It's really fun to watch jump around, and it can be entertaining to fight if you want to challenge, but sometimes it's just really irritating, especially when I first tried to get all the Clamberjaw tail dusters for the Nora Thunder Warrior outfit. That was a pain in the ass. So because of that, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the C tier. Next, we have the Claw Strider. Ooh, how do I feel about the Claw Strider? So when we talk about the Claw Strider, I love the design, absolutely love the design. I'm a huge dinosaur fan. I have always been my entire life since I was a kid. I love the design of the Claw Strider, and the the elemental Claw Striders are absolutely OP when it comes to taking out other machines, especially when you're playing on ultra hard. They come in very handy. As you've seen in some of my streams in the past, they can easily take out an entire herd of spike snouts, and they can take on a Slitherfang all by themselves. So they are extremely strong. The one caveat that I have to this is that I really wish that it would have been faster. I don't need it to be as fast as a Charger, but it is almost half the speed of the Charger and the Bristleback, which I think is funny. Like this, the Bristleback is supposed to be faster than a Velociraptor. That doesn't really make sense to me. So that kind of bums me out. I would have put it in S tier if it wasn't for that, but I think I'm going to go ahead and put it in the A tier because of those reasons. Next, we have the Corruptor. This is really easy for me. S tier. This is our first S tier of the day. The Corruptor has always been extremely cool for me. I really like the design. It's kind of like insectoid. It's almost like a scorpion. It has like its prehensile tail that it can whip around and jut out. I think it's really cool, and I like the design because it's very kind of like steampunkish almost. It's futuristic, but also harkens back to a lot of the old world tech, obviously because it is old world machine. But I really like the design of the Corruptor. I have always liked the design of the Corruptor, and I think it is really cool. I think it was really unfortunate that we didn't get to fight it more in Horizon Forbidden West, and I think it's a shame that we didn't get to see it actually corrupting any machines in the Horizon Forbidden West, because I thought that was a really cool mechanic they had in Zero Dawn, because you would basically have to take it out really quickly or it could corrupt other machines and you'd be in a pickle. So I do think it's really cool in that regard, and that's why it deserves my first spot in the S tier. So next we have the Dreadwing, and this is going to be, you know what? I was thinking about putting in the A tier, but you know what? The Dreadwing is an S tier for me as well. So this is our second S tier machine. And the reason that I put the Dreadwing in the S tier is because it's a freaking gigantic bat machine. Like, how freaking cool is that? I remember when I first saw it, hey Royce, buddy, you have to pick the loudest toy, don't you? So when I first saw the Dreadwing, it was of course during the mission, was it Seeds of the Past, where you go to the greenhouse and you have to retrieve Demeter. And I thought it was an extremely cool surprise because it came out of the blue. I did not expect it at all. It was a very well hidden machine. Like, they didn't really tease it at all before the game actually released. So it was a nice surprise. And when it came out from hiding, when it uncloaked, it was awesome. I still remember that moment to this day. It's strong. It's obviously not the strongest machine. It's kind of in the middle, almost in the higher middle of the pack when it comes to strength, but it has a ton of attacks. It's really versatile in that manner. They did a lot of work. They put a lot of work into animating this machine and making like its attacks. So that's why it deserves the second place in our S tier. Buddy boy, dude. All right, so next up we have the Fanghorn, and I'm going to put this as our Fanghorn first for the F tier. The reason for that is it's just not exciting for me. I do appreciate all these machines. Okay, buddy, I'm sorry. I'm taking away all your squeaky toys now. I know. Dude, All right, sorry. You're gonna hear some squeaking in the background. So I'm sorry in advance about the squeaking. He obviously does not want me to take his squeaky toys away from him, and I'm not gonna fight with him right now. But yeah, the Fanghorn gets an F tier for me. Again, this is just comparing it to all the other machines. There's gonna be a few in the F tier, but it's just not exciting for me. And again, this is all subjective. When I first saw the Fanghorn, I thought to myself, oh, it's just a stronger Grazer, which is basically exactly what it is. It has almost the same exact model. The only thing they changed is the horns and the elemental canisters in the back, and they gave it a couple more attacks, which again, those a few more attacks are pretty cool. It's unique among the grazing machines, but it is an F tier for me. Fireclaw is an F tier. Just kidding. Just kidding. Can you imagine the backlash I would get if I put Fireclaw in the F tier? No, Fireclaw obviously gets S tier for me, dog. Fireclaw, ever since it was revealed in the Frozen Wilds, which we're gonna be playing later on today, ever since my first time seeing the Fireclaw, it was already after we had encountered the Frostclaw, which I thought was pretty cool. But then when the Fireclaw was revealed, it was of course in, I forget the name of the, it wasn't a cauldron. It was the facility that Hephaestus had taken over. Firebreak facility. There you go. I remembered. So when it was first revealed in Firebreak, it was an epic moment, and that boss battle was actually one of the hardest. Actually, it still is probably the hardest boss battle in the entire Horizon franchise, which I know is only 2 games, but it was really entertaining. And even to this day, fighting Fireclaws always keeps me on my toes. It's really fun. I think I've become an expert at killing Fireclaws, but it is still fun to this day, and that's why I really appreciate them. The Fireclaw is one of the few machines that I think is fair as well. Basically, what I mean by fair is that there's a few machines that I think are unfair when you fight them, because either they spam attacks way too quickly or they rely too much on kind of shady attacks. I don't know how to really describe it. They rely too much on gimmicks, I should say. The Fireclaw is simple. It wants to beat the crap out of you, and it will. It will get all up in your face, and it will give you a hard time. But it does so like a gentleman. It will fight fair, and that's why I give it an S tier. Frostclaw, however, I give a B. I know it's basically the same machine. The Fireclaw is just bigger, but the Frostclaw, it is a really cool machine. But ever since the Fireclaw was revealed, the Frostclaw to me is just a weaker Fireclaw with frost attacks, and not really unique in my eyes. So that's why the Frostclaw gets a B tier. I don't really have much to say about that. It is very spammy as well. Glinthawks, F tier. So I know a lot of people don't like the Glinthawks. I actually like their design. It's like a miniature Stormbird. It has a lot of the same design elements as a Stormbird. However, there's a few reasons why I don't like it. One, of course, it's really annoying to fight. It is a little easier to fight in the Forbidden West. It's not as bad. They cut down some of its health, and it's not as irritating. However, the AI for the Glinthawks, when you override them, is absolutely broken, which we found out in my machine spotlight. When you override them, they are completely useless. Completely useless. So for that reason, I give it an F. Let's go ahead and go to the Grazer. This is going to be another F tier for me. What I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to kind of rank them within the tiers. So the left being the coolest, and then going down to the right side. So I do think the Glinthawk is cooler than these two, and I think the Grazer is even less of a cool machine than the Fanghorn for, I think, obvious reasons. It's just a deer, and it doesn't have a lot of unique attacks. It just runs away. The only kind of entertainment I get from Grazers is setting off their fire or blaze canisters and watching them go boom. I think Boomer would really enjoy that. So next up is the Grimhorn. This gets an A tier for me, and I think that's going to be really high up on the A tier. It's almost an S tier, but I think it's going to get an A tier for me simply because it's a freaking Triceratops with freaking rockets attached to its freaking back, which is absolutely awesome. Again, I love dinosaurs, so I'm gonna have a bias for all the dinosaur-based machines in this tier list, but the Grimhorn for me is awesome. I think the design is really cool. What is unique about it is the Apex one has a purple sensor. For Apex machines, usually they have the same color optical sensors, red when they're upset, yellow when they are searching for you or curious, and then blue when they're non-hostile. But the Grimhorn, if you didn't know this, the Apex Grimhorn, which unfortunately you can't encounter out in the wild, which is a bummer, has a purple optical sensor, which I know is a tiny little detail, but I think it is really cool. Next up, we have the Lancehorn. This one is going to go above the Grazer, but below the Fanghorn. Again, another grazing machine. Doesn't really excite me. I don't need to say much else about that. Same reasons for the Fanghorn and the Grazer. Ooh boy, the Leap Lasher. Where does the Leap Lasher go? Let me know what you think in the comments, where you think the Leap Lasher deserves to be. I do think it's a very unique design. I think it's really cool. I think it has a lot of unique animations and a lot of unique attacks and mechanics, but it is extremely annoying to fight. Extremely annoying to fight. This is tough for me. I didn't think about this tier list beforehand, by the way, just so you guys know that I'm coming up with all this off the top of my head. I haven't pre-decided this. I think the Leap Lasher is going to end up, I'm between B and C. I'm going to give it a B. I'm going to give it a benefit of the doubt with a B. And the reason for that is, again, the unique design and the unique attacks. And I do think it was a pretty cool idea for a machine. I like the tail. I think it's really cool how they executed that. And the fact that it's kind of like a support machine. When it ejects some of its canisters, it can support other machines on the battlefield, which is, again, a really cool mechanic. Hey, Knox, would you live in a real-time LA or the Burning Shores? Obviously, I'd live in real-time LA because I don't want to be dead. Long leg. This is one of my favorite machines simply because it's a robot chicken. As the developer or one of the developers of the game pronounced it, literally some of the attacks were based on a chicken. They saw a YouTube video of a chicken fighting a human or something, or a dog. I don't even know what it was, but the developer looked up a YouTube video about a chicken to get inspiration for the long legs attacks. I think that's hilarious, and I do think the long leg has a really cool design. If you don't know, the long leg is basically based off of one of the large terror birds from the, I forget what era it is, but basically after the dinosaurs were extinct, but before modern time, of course, or before even classical times. So they went extinct as well. But basically think of it as a giant, terrifying ostrich. I mean, look at the name terror bird. So that's why I like the long leg. Again, all those kind of dinosaur-like kind of machines are gonna get biased for me. I'm gonna go ahead and put this just above. I'm gonna put it behind the Bellowback. It's really cool for me, but I think the Bellowback is just a little cooler and a little more. It's just way more powerful when you override it, so that's why it gets it goes in that spot for me. Plowhorn. Now, I know I put the Grimhorn at the top of the A class, or A tier. However, the Plowhorn, again, it's just the same thing without the cool rockets on its back. So I'm actually going to give the Plowhorn a C. I do appreciate how they made the Plowhorn kind of like the land gods, and they gave them a lot of lore, actually, in the game for the Utaru. Of course, the Utaru worship them, and they've been kind of assisting the Utaru with building their agriculture for who knows how long. So I do appreciate the lore behind them, but because we have the Grimhorn, I have to put the Plowhorn at a C. The Ravager. I have mixed feelings about this. I have very mixed feelings about this because I honestly like the Sawtooth better than the Ravager, and we unfortunately didn't get the Sawtooth in the Forbidden West, which I think was a miss in my eyes. I know they basically said they didn't put the Sawtooth in because it is too similar to the Ravager, and there's no point in having two very similar machines. However, I ask you this: what the hell is this then? If you don't want to have the Sawtooths with a Ravager because they're too similar, why the hell are these okay? That doesn't make sense to me. I hate these. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the Ravager in the B tier, and it's gonna be behind. It's gonna be above the Leap Lasher. I think the Leap Lasher is gonna be kind of low on the B tier. Rockbreaker. So that's another one that I was disappointed with in the Forbidden West. The Rockbreaker in Zero Dawn was awesome, especially the demonic Rockbreaker that you encounter in the Frozen Wilds. It's amazing. It always reminds me of Tremors, the old movie Tremors, where you have gigantic, like little, almost like reptiles or worms or aliens, almost kind of burrowing underneath the ground and striking when you least suspect it. So the Rockbreaker was really cool to me. I still think it's pretty cool. However, we only have 2 machine sites for the Rockbreaker, and it's only involved in one main kind of side quest. And I do feel like it was nerfed in Forbidden West. So for that reason, I'm gonna put it low on the A tier. I'm gonna put it above a long leg, but below the Bellowback. Rollerback. I love the Rollerback. I do have a kind of a love-hate relationship because my very first experience with the Rollerback, I saw it, and this was in my own playthrough. I didn't stream this. This was in my own playthrough when I did it on my own when I very first played the game. So my very first encounter with the Rockbreaker, I saw it and I was like, damn, that looks pretty cool. It's like a gigantic ankylosaurus, which of course, again, is like a dinosaur. I know it's kind of like a pangolin as well, or an armadillo, but I see it more of as ankylosaurus. And I love the design, and when I went up to it, I initially fought it. It kicked my ass. It absolutely kicked my ass, and because of that, it is actually an extremely strong machine. And I love that it has the gravity well generator, basically, so if you knock off its armor plating, it can suck them all back on. That was kind of like a game changer for me too, because you're used to like tearing all these armor parts off, and then you can get a clear shot to the weaker components. When the Rollerback first used its gravity generator basically to pull all those armor plates back, I was like, well, honestly, my first thought was, I wasn't amazed. I was like, oh, fuck. My first thought was,
Bruh.
was that. I was like, what the hell, man? But I'm actually going to put it in the S tier. I actually like it more than the Plowhorn. I'm going to put it below everything else in the S tier, but I think the Rollerback is unique enough for me and powerful enough as a machine and strong enough in a fight to deserve the S tier for me. Next up is the Scorcher. Scorcher is easy for me. That's going to go in the S tier. I think the Scorcher was nerfed for Forbidden West. The Scorcher used to spam attacks incredibly quickly in Zero Dawn, and it was a pain in the ass to fight. It still is quite a bit of a pain to fight, but it is a lot more manageable. I don't like when machines got nerfed for Forbidden West. I think a lot of them did. I don't really like that the Scorcher got nerfed, but I still do really like it. I love the design. I don't care what some of you say. It's a freaking gray wolf. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's a lynx. I think you're completely wrong. I'll come out and say that right now. It does not resemble a lynx at all to me. The nose, the snout is too long. It's basically from Yellowstone. The gray wolf's, of course, known to be in that area. And the gray wolf, of course, is even part of the Frozen Wilds DLC when you collect the little animal figurines. So I obviously think that the Scorcher is a wolf. I love dogs. Like, again, hot dog. It's a hot dog, the legendary hot dog. So the Scorcher deserves an S tier for me. Oh boy, look at what we're at. I have been outspoken when it comes to these two machines coming up here. I absolutely hate them. And the reason I hate them, I'm a little biased. The Scrapper gets, it's at the bottom of the list for me. The Scrounger, I'm actually going to put above the grazing machines. The Scrapper was a pain in the ass in Zero Dawn. They also nerfed it. It doesn't attack as quickly, so it's a lot easier to manage, but so here, I'm biased when it comes to these machines. I want to let you know that right now. I'm going to be very transparent. I'm biased on why I hate them. The Scrounger, I think, is a little cooler. It's a little more unique for me. That's why I put that a little higher. But they both deserve F tiers for me, and the reason for that, again, it harkens back to what we discussed earlier about the Ravager. I loved the Sawtooth, and when they didn't include the Sawtooth for Forbidden West, I was upset. But I kind of was even more upset when I found out that the reason they did it was because they thought the Sawtooth was too similar to the Ravager, and that it was kind of like a redundant machine. Because again, if you're going to make that argument, then these machines should not exist. There should only be the Scrapper or the Scrounger, because they are the exact same machine with different attacks. Which, again, if you're going to say you can't have the Sawtooth because of that, you should not have the Scrapper and Scrounger. So I'm bitter about that. I'm bitter about the Sawtooth not being included in the Forbidden West, and therefore I give both of these machines an F tier. So it is biased. Shellwalker. Shellwalker is really cool. It's really unique. I think it's really quirky. I love that it's kind of like a old style kind of boxer, like put your mitts up. I really like how it fights. And it is actually pretty darn strong, but it always has been one of those machines that is like, it's cool, but when you compare it to other machines, it's not as cool as others. So it's going to go right in the middle of the pack for me at the top of the C list. I know a lot that's going to be pretty divisive. That's going to be a little controversial for some of you, but for myself, when I compare it to all the other machines, I like the other ones a little more. Shellwalker S tier, prove you wrong. Again, it's just personal opinion. I think it's cool, but I think a lot of other machines are cooler and more unique. Shell Snapper, that is a very easy one for me, but I don't know where I'm going to put it up here. I think I'm actually going to put it right here behind the Corruption. You know what? It goes above the Corruptor. The Shell Snapper is an incredible machine. I have always kind of been fascinated by snapping turtles. If you don't know what snapping turtles are, they are basically turtles, and they have incredibly strong jaws. They could bite your freaking finger off. So it's based on a real life animal, of course, so as all of these pretty much are, but it's just gigantic, of course. And I think the Shell Snapper, the first time I saw it, I thought it was extremely cool. I really like that it burrows underground. That makes it pretty unique, similar to the Burrower and the Rockbreaker. But I just love the Shell Snapper. I think it's really cool. It's a literal tank. I would kind of actually compare it to like a new modernized Deathbringer almost. Not as strong as a Deathbringer, of course, but it is like a walking tank. It has freaking cannons that can shoot you from all freaking 6 corners, basically. It has impermeable armor on the top of its shell. You have to actually shoot it off by shooting off the shell bolts and getting to the sweet meat underneath its shell, like a regular turtle. So I think that was really well executed. And my God, can they be absolutely ridiculously strong. They have an attack that I actually didn't cover in my spotlight. So if I ever do a remaster for it, I'm going to have to redo that and mention this attack. I actually didn't know about it because it's not all that common, but the Shell Snapper has an attack when it gets below, I think, half health. It's more likely to use this attack when it kind of goes into its super rage mode and its shell turns yellow, where it basically completely separates its jaw and head into a gigantic freaking laser gun, like a freaking rocket laser gun. It's freaking amazing. I would say like a nuclear missile launch almost. It shoots it out with incredible speed, and the blast radius is massive, and it could absolutely one-shot you in ultra hard. And for that reason, the Shell Snapper gets an S tier for me. I think it's awesome. Next up, we have the Sky Drifter. Also, I'm actually going to put this, I have almost the exact same feeling about the Sky Drifter that I do about the Leap Lasher. I love the design. I'm actually going to put this higher. I love the design. I love the Archaeopteryx style design. Again, another kind of dinosaur, so I'm biased. And I like that it's very, very steampunk with its locomotion. It has like jet rocket boosters that it uses to fly around, which I think is really cool. Unlike the Glinthawk and the Stormbird, which have like these small boosters that are very controlled, this basically has like gigantic rocket packs on its legs that it uses to shoot itself around. And they even have like basically smoke billowing out of them, which I think is really cool. And they're actually, exactly as Ruslan said, rip Brave Boy. One like equals one pray for him. Brave Boy, of course, was our Sky Drifter that we overrode in the Sky Drifter Spotlight. If you haven't seen it already, go check it out. They are actually incredibly strong for their size. I think they do pretty well for themselves. So that's why the Sky Drifter gets a B tier for me. Oh boy. This is an easy one. I have said this numerous times on stream, and every time someone asks me, I have the same answer. My favorite machine in Horizon franchise is the Slaughter Spine. And the reason for that is it's, again, I'm biased towards any dinosaur type design machine. The Slaughter Spine is a gigantic Spinosaurus machine. And it's basically, they basically animated it with, I know this, with Godzilla as an inspiration. And I also love Godzilla. I've always loved Godzilla growing up. If you don't know the Slaughter Spine, it can shoot lasers out, purple lasers out of almost every single orifice of its body. It has incredibly strong plasma attacks, similar to Shin Godzilla. If you've never seen Shin Godzilla, you should check it out. It's kind of a slow movie, I have to tell you that right now, but it's one of the better Godzilla movies. The Slaughter Spine just reminds me so much of Shin Godzilla, and of course it's a Spinosaurus, so what can I say? It also is, of course, one of the most difficult machines to fight in the Forbidden West. I think the Fireclaw is actually, well, actually no, I'm gonna say, yeah, the Slaughter Spine is probably one of the hardest machines to fight in the Forbidden West. And I say that because I can kill a Fireclaw with melee only. I cannot kill a Slaughter Spine with melee only. And this kind of goes back to what I was talking about. The Fireclaw fights fair. The Slaughter Spine doesn't. It doesn't fight fair at all. It will just absolutely kill you. It was made for one purpose, and that purpose is to kill you. And it does that very well. What else can I say about the Slaughter Spine? I just always remember the first time I encountered a Slaughter Spine. It was a very special memory for me. It was actually the Slaughter Spine that was along the mountains. Oh my gosh, I don't have my map anymore here. I forget the name of the mountain range off the top of my head, but in the snowy mountains. And I remember looking at my mini map. I opened up my map and I saw that there was a Slaughter Spine site coming up pretty close. And in my mind, I was like, what the heck is a Slaughter Spine? Because all it showed is a little tiny icon. I was like, what the heck is a Slaughter Spine? So I came up over the crest, like over the crest of the mountain, to look down on the little kind of basin where the Slaughter Spine was with the Leap Lashers. And I remember like when I first saw it, of course you hear it's like iconic, like kind of, I can't describe the sound it makes when you first come in range of one. It's this chilling kind of sound that is unrivaled. When I remember almost, actually, no, I do remember this. So my girlfriend was actually, I think she was in the same room as me when I was playing this in my first playthrough. I stopped the game, I paused it, and I was like, I'm not even lying when I say this. I was like, my God, hats off to the designer who made the Slaughter Spine. It looks absolutely awesome. I love it so much. I actually told my girlfriend to stop what she was doing and come and look at it because I was so hyped about it. And I still am hyped about it to this day. I think it's an awesome machine. So that's why I put it at the top of the list, and it will stay at the top of the list. That is my all-time favorite Horizon machine so far. Of course, we'll see what happens with the DLC when that comes out. Slitherfang, another one I'm kind of on the fence about. I am gonna put it above the Rollerback, but below the Dreadwing. And the reason for that is I think it's cool. I mean, my channel is Noxious Asp. If you don't know, an asp is a snake. Of course, that's where I got my logo from. So I obviously have a deep connection with snakes and asps, of course. So that's one of the reasons why I like this machine so much. It is really cool. When you first fight it at the beginning of the game, at the very beginning of the game, I was pretty surprised. I was like, wow, I did not expect this early. Of course, it was a weakened Slitherfang, but still, it was a pretty cool, unique boss fight. The reason why I don't put it higher on the list is because when you override it, it is a bit weak. The AI, I think, is a little broken. I think the AI could have been programmed a little better. It doesn't really attack your enemies very consistently and not very quickly at all. So that's one of the reasons why I kind of put it down lower on the list. But I do really like the Slitherfang. I think it's really cool. It also, oh, speaking of which, I totally forgot to mention another reason why this is S tier, the battle music. The Slaughterspine's battle theme music that it shares with the Tremor Tusk is absolutely epic. It is absolutely amazing. The Slitherfang also has a really cool, unique battle theme for it, which is another reason why I like it so much. Snapmaw. I've been talking a lot about these last couple machines. Snapmaw is going to be quick for me. I like it, but I don't love it. It's kind of like lower middle pack for me. I don't really feel very strongly about it. I'm going to put it in D. It doesn't excite me as much as it did in Zero Dawn. I already know I'm upsetting a lot of people with my decisions. So the Snapmaw, just for me, again, in my opinion, it doesn't evoke enough feeling for me. It's a really cool crocodile machine. When I first saw it in Zero Dawn, I really liked it. But with the introduction of all these new machines, it has gotten pushed way back, and I've kind of lost that same sense of awe that I had initially. So that's why it gets the D tier for me. Spectre Prime. So this, of course, if you don't know, spoiler alert, this is the final boss in Horizon Forbidden West, the main story at least, that is piloted by Tilda Vandermeer. And I gotta give it an S tier. I'm trying to figure out where to put it in here. I'll put it right here, behind the Corruptor, but in front of the Dreadwing. The Spectre Prime, the reason why I put it so high is just the design is awesome. The design is really cool. It reminds me of a Power Ranger, like a mech suit or something. It is absolutely astounding. I really like it a lot. It's very unique, of course, because it has that far zenith tech. It's very fluid in its motions. It has a lot of cool attacks. It is a pain in the butt to fight at first, but once you get the hang of it, it is actually quite easy, which is why I don't put it higher on the list. I think it's a little too easy for a final boss fight. I think the Fireclaw boss fight in the Frozen Wilds was a lot more difficult than the Spectre Prime boss fight in Horizon Forbidden West, which is kind of a little bummer. Spectre, of course, is cool, but it's going to go lower on the list. I think it's going to go in the A tier. It's going to go here at the bottom of the A tier. It's cool, like the Spectre Prime, but it's not the Spectre Prime. I'll say that. That's all I'll say about that. Also, I'll say it's basically like a new Far Zenith Corruptor or Scarab. It's almost the same. If you look at the two, they are basically identical, except this obviously looks like it was built 2,000 years in the future, which it was, of course. Or 1,000 years in the future, sorry, not 2,000. Next up, we have the Spike Snout. The Spike Snout. Sorry, I had to use. I love this little soundboard I got, the Stream Deck. So the Spike Snout. It is very unique. It's another one of those support class machines that I think is really cool. I like that they introduce support class machines in the game. But ever since I saw it, again didn't really evoke a lot of passion in me. It is just kind of there, and it is still kind of there. I did kind of appreciate it more after the spotlight I made for it. Before the spotlight, I probably would have put it either in D or an F, but after the spotlight, I gained a newfound appreciation for it because it actually is really cool with all its different support mechanics and debuffing mechanics, I should say. So I'm going to go ahead and put it right here. I think it goes before the Charger, but behind the Burrower. Let's go ahead and go on to the Stalker. The Stalker, as you may know, is one of my favorite machines of all time. I like it more than the Scorcher. It goes in third place so far for the S tier. I mentioned this a lot in my spotlight for the Stalker. It is one of my favorite machines ever. And let me go ahead and show you this. If any of you guys ever want to get me something for a gift, I'm just kidding. Don't do this, please. It's too expensive. This is so cool. Let me bring it on screen. That is freaking cool, man. Like, this is basically a replica of the Stalker. You can change the color of its optical sensors to blue or red. It's just so freaking cool. And I love the design of the Stalker because it is very unique. It's the only kind of machine with this type of armor plating. It is very sleek. It is very powerful. It can still one-shot you on ultra hard easily with its sniping attack and even with its tail swipe attack. So it's not something to bat an eye at. It is extremely cool. I love, of course, its cloaking ability. I wish the cloaking ability was a little more complete. I wish that it was more invisible, if that makes any sense to you, while it was cloaked. But I do think it's really cool, and I really hope that someday we are able to see what the pre-derangement Stalker looked like, because if you don't know, the pre-derangement Stalker was white, and you can see that in Rost's armor, the armor that he wears. You see Stalker plates that are white, which I think is really cool. And I think actually the Quen have white Stalker plates on their armor as well. I may be wrong about that, but I think the Quen have white Stalker plates as well, which I think is really cool. So, the Stormbird. This is going to upset some of you, and this is also biased because I'm sorry, MrAR Gaming, I'm very sorry. If you watch the stream series, you know that I had a hell of a time collecting the Stormbird primary nerves to upgrade our gear. I honestly was sick and tired of these machines after that stream. Stormbird Slayer 69 is what the rank that I achieved after that stream was done. We killed, I think we killed over 8 Stormbirds on ultra hard, which is not an easy task. It wasted a lot of ammunition just to get these stupid primary nerves. I only needed a couple, and we just could not get them. So because of that, I'm a little kind of bitter about it. I'm going to put it down at the bottom of the A tier. Still still a really cool machine. I think it's extremely cool. It was one of my favorite machines from Zero Dawn. But with the introduction of some of these other machines, actually, you know what? I'm gonna put it up here above the bellow back. With the introduction of some of these other machines, it no longer ranks as an S tier for me. Next up is the Sunwing. The Sunwing is really cool. It's of course the only flying mount we have so far in the game, and flying around on the Sunwing is absolutely awesome. You get some amazing views. It's a beautiful experience all around. The first time you fly a Sunwing is really cool, but my god, they are a pain in the ass to fight on ultra hard. So because of that, I'm actually going to put them at the top of a B tier. It gets higher up on the list because of its function as a mount. However, that function I think is not fully realized, because I really wish they would have given the Sunwing some kind of offensive capabilities. If not when you're riding it, then at least when you're not riding it. And if you don't know this, the Sunwing doesn't have any offensive attacks once you've overridden it whatsoever, which I think is really stupid. Which is why we've lost a couple Sunwings on the stream series, because basically they'll sit there and let a machine or a rebel shoot them until they die. And they won't do anything about it, which I think is really stupid. So that's why it kind of ranks lower, and it's just because the AI. Tall neck, that's gonna go in S tier for me, just because it's so iconic. But it's gonna go lower in the S tier. It's gonna go here. Well, I love the tall necks. I mean, the tall neck is the tall neck. What else can I say about the tall neck? It's the freaking tall neck. I mean, I have the Lego set. I love the tall neck. I think it's really cool. It's gigantic. It's almost completely impervious to any kind of damage, and is majestic. It is a docile giant. It's one of the only non-hostile machines in the Horizon franchise so far, and I think it just looks really cool. However, I think these machines are a little cooler than it, so that's why it deserves an S tier, but not quite the top of the S tier. Thunderjaw, that's an easy second place for me. Iconic. It was the first big bad we had in the series before the Frozen Wilds was released. And I know the Fireclaw can basically destroy a Thunderjaw, as we've seen, but I do think that the Thunderjaw is a little cooler. Again, I have my bias. I've said this. I have my bias for dinosaur-style machines, and of course, the Thunderjaw is basically designed after a Tyrannosaurus Rex, which is one of the coolest freaking dinosaurs that has ever existed. So I have to get it up there. And it's a T-Rex with freaking rockets attached to its freaking back, and it can shoot freaking laser beams from its freaking mouth. So that's why I think it's awesome. One of my biggest regrets, by the way, I've mentioned this before in stream, one of the biggest regrets I've had in the recent years is not getting the collector's edition of Horizon Zero Dawn with the Thunderjaw little statuette. Like, I have the Tremor Tusk here from the Forbidden West collector's edition. I almost didn't get that, but it went on sale for half off, so I got it. But I really regret not getting the Thunderjaw. I would much rather have a Thunderjaw little replica than a Tremor Tusk replica. So I'm kind of bummed about that. But I do like the Slaughter Spine more. And I've said this as well on the stream. It's a really close race between the Thunderjaw and the Slaughter Spine for me, but the Slaughter Spine just slightly edges it out. Tide Ripper. Woo, boy, I love the Tide Ripper. But how much do I love it? I'm going to put it there. I do like it more than these machines. It deserves an S tier for me. And the battle music, again, I like music. That plays a big part in a gaming experience for me, is the music and the battle theme for the Tide Ripper. I forget the name of the title of the song. Again, it's on Spotify if you want to check it out, the entire soundtrack. But the song is absolutely amazing. I love it. Actually, you know what? Let me go ahead and bring it up real quick. Like, this song is just so freaking hype. It is so freaking good. I love this song. It is so freaking awesome. I'm gonna shut up and just let you listen to the first little bit of it. It is a masterpiece. I think this is probably, I'm gonna say no, it's not probably my favorite song in the soundtrack. It is my favorite song in the soundtrack. Absolutely is my favorite song in the soundtrack. And let's go ahead. Actually, I'm gonna kind of leave this on in the background while we do the rest of this. But yeah, that's the reason why I put the Tide Ripper up there. Again, once again, dinosaur machines always will get a nod from me. I'm biased for any dinosaur machine, and the Tide Ripper is a gigantic plesiosaur, Loch Ness monster, basically style machine that can freaking come up on land and waddle around like a seal, elephant seal. It's really cool. It shoots freaking purge water out of its face. It has pretty cool attacks, and I think it actually is one of this is gonna sound really weird, but it's one of the cutest machines to me. I think it's really cute looking. I would want to have a Tide Ripper as a pet. If I could have any of these machines as a pet, I would want a Tide Ripper. I think it'd be really cool. All right, Tremor Tusk. Again, gets an S tier for me. A lot of these are going to be S tier. Obviously, you can see we have a lot of S tiers today. I love a lot of these machines. But where does the Tremor Tusk sit? I think the Tremor Tusk is going to sit behind the Slither Fang, but before the Rollerback. The Tremor Tusk is also, it's a freaking gigantic woolly mammoth machine. Again, with freaking cannons on his back and cannons on his face that can completely destroy you. But it is one of the weaker machines among the heavyweight class, and it is pretty easy to defeat. Even Apex ones, even the pair of Apex ones on the top of the mountain in the northern area of the Tenakth Sky Clan lands. I forget what that mountain range is called, but you know what I'm talking about. It's just a little too easy to defeat for me. I wish it was more of a powerhouse. I wish that it could hold its own a little more. And the fact that a Bellowback can destroy it, an overridden Bellowback can destroy it easily in one-on-one combat is disappointing to me, because I think the Tremor Tusk should be able to destroy a Bellowback. I'm kind of disappointed in that fact. So that's why the Tremor Tusk gets an S tier for me, but doesn't quite sit up towards the top. And again, it shares the same battle theme as the Slaughter Spine. I love that song as well, so that's another reason why I picked it. So let's see, what else we got? The Watcher, we just had the Watcher Spotlight come out today. If you haven't seen it already, check it out after the stream, of course. After you leave the stream, go check it out and make sure to leave a like on the video. You guys, I would love to see a video hit like 500 likes quickly. I know the Slaughter Spine, I think, is over 1,000 likes, but that's been out since March. I think the Watcher and the Tall Neck deserve at least 500 likes. They are awesome, iconic machines. Go ahead and go over there and spam the like button. The Watcher is going to get an S tier for me, but it's at the bottom. It is a very simple machine, which is why it's not towards the top or anywhere. That's why I'm going to put it at the bottom. Basically, it's very simple. The design is simple. It doesn't really have a lot going for it when it comes to battling at all. I know it did destroy the Fire Claws, but again, that was because I was helping it out. I was diverting its attention, so it didn't really. I mean, if they were one-on-one with the Fire Claw, they would have easily been killed. It's still amazing that they were able to destroy the Fire Claw as quickly as they did, though. So I do give them that. But again, they're just an iconic machine in the Horizon franchise. This is one of the first machines that Aloy was able to take down on her own and as a little baby, and I think it was really cool. So because of that, I'm going to put it S tier. It's the nostalgia for me. Last but not least, the Widemaw. I think this is the goofiest machine. We've talked about this before. What is the goofiest machine in the game? I think the goofiest machine is the Widemaw. It farts, it poops, it hits you with its booty. I think it's just silly. It's a silly machine, but I do like the design. I think the design is really cool. I appreciate that we had a large hippo in the game. I do wish that it was kind of on par as a Snapmaw. I think it's a lower tier or lower level machine than the Snapmaw. I wish they were on par with each other, because in real life, crocodiles or alligators and hippos can destroy alligators in real life. Hippos are extremely deadly, actually, in real life. So I kind of wish that it was a little more powerful, but I'm gonna put it at the top of the C list. It kind of sits in the middle for me, because while I really like the design and it's goofy and it's really funny, and I enjoy fighting it because it literally farts on you. Because of that, like, it's one of those machines that doesn't really evoke a lot of kind of response from me. It's cool, but it's not as cool as a lot of these other machines. So that's it for the tier list. I know a lot of you don't agree with my tier list, and I'm sorry if I offended anybody with my decisions. That was my official Horizon Forbidden West machine tier list. At the end of the day, the Slaughter Spine is my favorite machine in the entire Horizon franchise so far. I cannot wait to see what they introduce in the DLC. I hope that I have a new favorite machine after the DLC is released, because I want to be awestruck, just like I was when I first saw the Slaughter Spine, and I hope we do get that.